We got everyone, Chris?
Yep, all good.
We're good to go? All right, I'll start by saying going into this year's trade deadline, I felt like this season's roster is probably the best we've had in a number of seasons. So that was going to make it harder for us to find opportunities that are upgrades in terms of increasing our odds of winning the Stanley Cup. I also felt like leading up to the deadline that as opposed to maybe years past, the supply of available players probably wasn't as plentiful as in the past few trade deadlines. At the end of the day, we're excited to be bringing Corey Perry back. Corey is a winner with a proven track record in the playoffs. He makes our team better. He will bring snarl to our group. He will bring additional scoring ability to our bottom six. So really excited to bring him in. And with a guy like Corey Perry, and I shouldn't say a guy like Corey Perry, there's only one Corey Perry, but with Corey Perry, it's not all about production. It's also about the leadership he brings to our group and the influence he has on other players. He has this ability to bring guys into the fight. He knows when and how to raise the temperature on the ice. He knows when to calm things down, when that's what's needed. And that's priceless if you want to go on a long playoff run. So really excited to bring him back. At the end of the day, I feel like we've improved our team without giving up any of our prospects, without subtracting any of our regulars off of our roster, and we still retain all of our premium draft picks going forward that we had coming into this deadline. So not usually a fan of paying a price at the deadline to acquire a player on an expiring contract, but in this case, there's significantly less risk because we know Corey, we have a relationship with him. We know he's going to fit in great into the locker room and with our team on the ice. And in talking with Coop after the trade, he'd already talked to a few of our leaders, and they were really pumped to have Corey back, as we are. So at the end of the day, happy with the end result.
So when you go through these processes, like what's the difference between evaluating what a draft pick might be compared to a prospect you already have? Like there's a tangible aspect of a player you already have an understanding for as compared to a draft pick, which you don't know it's going to be 2-3 years down the road.
Yeah, well, the draft picks are easier actually probably to value because we kind of know the odds of success of each pick available, whether it's pick number one or last pick in the draft. So we have an idea. We also have an idea of the timeline in terms of that player eventually being able to contribute at the NHL level. With players that have already been drafted, well, the pro is that we know them a little bit better, and they're a little ahead timeline-wise. Obviously, if they've been drafted 2 years ago, they're 2 years ahead of a similarly drafted player in the upcoming draft. So it's case-by-case basis. Some prospects, after they're drafted, their value goes up. Some players, after they've been drafted, their value goes down. It's always in flux. It's always based on how they're trending, how they're progressing, how they're developing, how they're improving, how they are, meeting new challenges that are presented to them. So it's not an exact science. It's not a science. Like it's years of experience. It's having a staff that has a lot of experience in the game as players, coaches, scouts, and player development people, and using that expertise to make evaluations.
Julien, you obviously I know you work all year for days like this, right? But how did maybe this kind of come together? Because it looked like this market was kind of one that was slow to develop a little bit from a buyer's perspective, and also there were some reports about Perry, wanting to stay in LA. At what point did you know he was available, and at what point did you think that this was a deal that could get done?
I would say this week. I think he wasn't available unless maybe the right team called, and I guess he felt we were the right team. He had to waive his no trade to agree to this trade, and he did. And Kenny Holland told me he did so. He did with enthusiasm. And when I talked to Corey, like he was really, really excited about coming back to this group and the opportunity we have here to win. He's been digging in, year out, trying to chase that next Stanley Cup, and he's excited about the odds that we have here that we present to him, the opportunity we present to him, and obviously adding him to our group increases our odds of success. So I would say it happened rather quickly.
Is there any sense of generalization you can kind of give us about how this day developed? Because it was slow, really, for the most part around the league. You mentioned the sellers market, maybe a little bit kind of, dented that a little bit. Yeah. Just the feel for how things went throughout this day for you.
I don't have all that information because I'm not in all 32 war rooms. I'm in ours. I can only speak to my experience. I think I mentioned this leading to the deadline, but I think I mentioned this every time I'm at this podium. I'm always looking for opportunities to acquire players that can help us now and into the future. So I was looking at those types of players, and I was focused on those types of players. And at the end of the day, again, I had a feeling there really weren't that many that were available, and that proved to be right based on the level of transactions today. I was less in the rental market. Not something necessarily I was exploring very aggressively. Not that we didn't diligently go through those options, but unless we're interested in acquiring the player, I'm not calling the GM to see if he's available or what he wants for him. Like, I will only call if I have interest. And we usually are more surgical in our approach in terms of who we call and who we talk to. We talk to everyone, but who we actually engage in possible trade conversations, we try to keep that tight. So I don't know. It looked to me like there were a few players for which there was a market and they got moved, and then as prices came down, it looked like there may have been more trades later in the day. I also haven't had time to absorb everything that happened throughout the league. I'm not sure. I don't even know how many trades there were. Was there more or less? It felt like there was a little bit fewer trades, especially if you look not just today, but the last week. There weren't that many trades. There certainly weren't that many blockbusters or big names that were traded away. Not a lot of young players traded away. Not a lot of players with term or team control traded away. Obviously, we're usually on the lookout for those types of players because they help us win now, and they help us win tomorrow. Like, we don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, investing all your future assets into this year's season. Like, we have a really good group of players, and they're going to be good for a while, and they're going to be here for a while. I want them to be able to chase a cup every year and contend for a cup every year, because that's how we increase our odds of bringing back the cup at some point. It's not going all in one year and then taking a step back the next 2-3 years. It's every year being as competitive as possible.
So, he's 40 years old. He had 19 goals last year. He's off to another good start this year. Why do you think he's been able to keep the offense going as he's, 21 years into his NHL career?
The guys that find a way that are extraordinary, that are out of the usual course of how people do it, they usually have something very special in them. That's why they're successful. Like 5'10" point guard who's a superstar, well, he probably has something special. That's why it allows him to be a successful NBA player at 5'10". There aren't many of those guys. Corey, I think at the end of the day, it's passion for the game. In our industry, obviously, everyone loves hockey. That's why you're in the business, and our players are passionate. I don't know that any player is as passionate as Corey Perry about hockey. He loves the game. He loves to compete. He loves to muck it up. He loves the challenge of doing the hard things and the rewards that come with that. So I would say it's not so much a skill set as a mindset, and that's what separates him from the other players. That's why he's still playing at a really high level at this age.
Julien, Mac came back, then Yanni, and now Corey Perry. I'm just curious for you, like, when you're looking at this, what is it about, maybe that era, those group of guys, like what kind of value does it add when you bring them back?
It's more the familiarity. Like, we're not bringing them back because we're trying to put the band together. We're not trying to go back to 2020 or 2021, 2022. We're trying to win the cup in 2026 and beyond. The guys that came back for very specific reasons. They fit a very specific need. The acquisition cost made sense in all those cases, and it always comes back to every decision we make thinking it improves our odds of bringing the cup back to Tampa. So it just so happens that those three players came back. Most of the others that left didn't come back. Most of the others that left probably won't come back. Some are retired now from that era. It's always about, how do you fit today? How do you help us win today? And those guys, when we brought them back, they all made us better. That's why we brought them back.
And just to follow up too.
Now, the one thing I would say, the familiarity makes it easier. Again, I talked to risk before. When you bring in a player that, we do our due diligence, we do background checks, we obviously can scout them and can do statistical analysis on their play and their background. They don't always, when they come to our environment, it doesn't always work out the way we expected, the way we project. Sometimes it works out way better than expected, sometimes not as well as we expected, sometimes completely different, but very good. But once you know players and you have that familiarity with them, and I think it makes it even easier for the coaches. They know how to use these players. They know how to get the best out of these players. These players know what to expect. It's easy. It's an easier transition for them because it's always a transition when you bring in a new player to an organization. There's a transition period for the group, and there's a transition period for that person. And I think this will be probably seamless because it's Corey Perry.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that too, just because, like we saw with Yanni, it was very easy. You just kind of picked up where he left off. Where specifically, because you guys have a need right now for forwards, where do you see, like what kind of value, where do you see him kind of slotting in right now?
It'll be a coach's decision. I would expect him to be somewhere in our bottom six in type in terms of minute usage. Again, it's not so much about what his production on the ice, although I expect him to be a contributor. It's also the impact he has on everyone else and how he'll make the rest of the group better. Every individual player being better, him being a better player than whoever would have been in the lineup in his spot. That's why I think we've moved the needle a little bit today in the right direction.
Julie, what's the challenge in not reacting to a bad week, right? Like you guys have lost 4 straight and not reacting to that and just taking that macro approach to it.
I think it's a little bit easier when you've had success and you're able to put things into perspective. I think experience also comes in. The reality is, we were on a heck of a run there where I think we lost 1 game in regulation, 1 game in overtime over almost 2 months. That's not sustainable. No one is that good. We're also way better than our performances the last 4 games. It's to getting back to our way of playing. It's not so much the results, it's just the way we're going about it. There are flashes of us being really good in these games, and we just haven't been able to do it for 60 minutes. There's certainly no panic. We know what we need to do. The players know what to do. The coaches they know what to do. Everyone's working on it. I expect us to work our way out of this funk.
Julie, when you go through this whole process, and I know you talk about, making moves not just to help this team, but in the future teams, how much do you assess some of the big ticket items coming up, in terms of, in the off season, the Darren Radish potential contract or a potential, extension with Nikita Kucherov, when sometimes you're analyzing the moves you make and maybe the moves you don't make?
Like the management of the cap space is something we have to keep in mind and do all the time. So it's one factor amongst many factors that we're weighing in our decisions.
Julien, I wanted to ask you about Dominic James, unfortunately, him going down with injury, and then the call-up of Connor Geekie as well. How did the injury to Dominic James and also the decision to call Connor up, how did that factor into the decision of what's gone on kind of the last week or so?
We lost both Dominic James and Gage Gronkowski at the same time. So now we're trying to replace that skill level, maybe some of that youthful energy that they both bring as well. We thought Connor Geekie was the best option we had in Syracuse in terms of helping us win games this week. So that's why he was the one called and recalled and called up to Tampa. He's having a really good year in Syracuse. He is another guy who's passionate about the game. He lives and breathes hockey. He wants to be a difference maker. He's putting in the effort. He's buying into what Joel Bouchard and the coaches are selling over there, and he's being rewarded with progression in his game. And this week he's getting an opportunity to showcase himself here, and that's another step in his development path.
Do you have any update on either Gage or Nick Paul and what their status might be moving forward?
Gage is day to day. So if we had a game today, he wouldn't be playing. I don't expect him in the lineup tomorrow. Beyond that, we'll see. Nick Paul is probably a week or 2 away still, ballpark. Thank you. All right. Thank you.